Larry, this is Good News Monday, and I know we'll find a way. Maybe some in the audience will think it'll be a test of our skill sets to find a way to get to the good news today, but we'll give it a try. We'll give it a go.
Let's go.
All right, good. Listen, I asked Brian White today, and I wanted to ask you this question. I was all ready to ask you this question. Why haven't we seen a big uptick in Model Y sales, given that we have this 7,500 deal now and the prices come down so low? And then I had this revelation, and maybe other people have already thought of this, but there are 2 million prospective Model Y purchasers waiting to take delivery of their Cybertruck. Could that be hurting our sales of the Model Y?
It's possible. I'm not a Model Y buyer. My brother owns a Model Y. And, I could trade up my wife's Model 3
Right.
for a Model Y, but I'm kind of interested in the new Model 3. I'm just reading some really good stuff about it. So, it's hard to judge. Look, sales of new vehicles across the board are down 35% from last year.
Mm-hmm.
You won't see that yet in the auto companies' financials, but those cars are sitting on dealership lots right now.
But we had Ford coming out today, Larry, with good numbers. Their February was up 10% year over year.
Their February.
Yeah.
Ask their dealers about their February.
Oh, I see. There you go. Right.
That's my point.
Yes, I gotcha.
Dealers are sitting with the largest inventory they've had for almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
So Ford are looking, splendid. And that's like saying Tesla's production has been fantastic, but there are all these cars sitting at the distribution centers.
Right.
With Tesla, we see the end-to-end.
Yes.
With Ford, we see, the dealership, and then we see the Ford production.
Right.
And the Ford production can look really great, and the dealerships could be choking on the inventory. So you have to pass this out very carefully. My understanding right now is that dealership inventory is at a 3-year high.
I see. Okay. Well, I want to talk about Ford again in a minute, but for now, I got a couple of other small things here, a couple of housekeeping matters to clean up. Jeff Bezos is now the richest guy on the planet.
Good. Good for him.
But he can't be sure about tomorrow. Tomorrow, he could be dropping back to number 2 again.
This is such a totally mindless metric because it's looking at the value of the stock market today.
Right.
And the unfortunate part of that is it's driven a lot of political animosity. The lower you are on the risk, the happier you should be.
Right.
I don't think there's any value to being on the top of that list. None at all. I mean, Jeff Bezos has been on the top of that list before. Elon's been on the top of the list before. And several other players have been on the top of the list. I think the lower you are on the list, the better for everybody and the person on the list.
Well, what do you think about this metric? So, Dalty Brewer. Okay, that's his handle on X. He says, remember this. He says, this was from Logical Thought, this is back in 2014. He says, impossible, no possible way that the projections to sell 500,000 cars in 2020 are absurd. The sell side is forecasting that Tesla will sell 500,000 cars in 2020. If Tesla sells 35,000 cars this year, 500,000 sales in 2020 would imply a 6-year CAGR of 56%. No complex product manufacturer has ever grown that quickly from a revenue base of $3 billion or more. Of course, we know they sold 499,550 cars in 2020 and have maintained a 50% CAGR ever since on average for 4 additional years. So I don't know. I guess the 20 million potential for the end of the decade is still in play.
Oh, I absolutely think it's in play. I read that, there was somebody else who posted the similar thing. One of the great shorts, I forget which particular great short it was. I mean, it was posted with such confidence in the 2014 time frame when, I remember the projection in 2014. The projection came in the white paper that Tesla issued around the battery plant, the new announced battery plant with Panasonic. And they showed 500,000 as their projection back in 2014 for that 2019 year. So I actually wrote a paper on it saying, how amazing Tesla's projections were given the moment in time when they made it and given how they actually managed to achieve it. I guess the guy who posted that could boast that they missed it by a whole 100 cars or whatever it was, and therefore they were right in the first place. But at the end of the day, I think we can all say grace over the amazing achievements, of the company.
Larry, we have a technical glitch. Oh, here we go. The technical glitch has ended. You are back on screen. Okay.
Yeah, my hand brushed the mouse and automatically turned the video off. Anyway, all I'm saying is that it's so easy to diminish the stature of the prophet at the time the prophet is making his prophecy. His or her prophecy.
Right.
It's less easy to excuse, the error of your ways after the fact.
Yeah.
And I wish more people were more modest about calling Elon out for his outlandish projections, many of which he doesn't hit.
Sure.
But he's got an incredible record, and we owe him a little bit more respect than we tend to give him.
So speaking of that respect, today was not a particularly good day in the market. And if people want to go back and take a look, I did a very thorough report this morning on my theories of why Tesla was down. I gave about 7 or 8 different reasons why Tesla was down. Or they could go to the midday and take a look at Brian White. And Brian White and I had that conversation. I'd let Brian White have the stage, and Brian gave some of his ideas of what was going on. So Larry, it's your turn. What do you think about what happened today in the market?
I I was asked the same question by Yaman. I was on Yaman's space earlier today. I dropped in and he brought me up to stage, very kind of him. And he asked me what was going on. I said, oh, why? What happened to the stock today? I could care less, I would be interested in a buying opportunity at this point. I don't think we're at a buying opportunity. I think it could sink a little bit further before it goes up again. Who cares? I mean, we're in a hiatus period. The hiatus period is very real. And Elon put it best. I should say the company put it best at the last shareholders call, where they said, we're between 2 waves. And I've spoken about this on this program.
Sure.
We're awaiting, the shipping. We're awaiting, firstly, the ramp of the Cybertruck. We're awaiting the announcement or the unveiling of the next generation vehicle. We're awaiting the shipment of the next generation vehicle. I will say, and I wrote about this week, and we spoke, and you've had me on the program about this, we're also on the cusp of this incredible growth of the the energy business. And then, of course, we're awaiting the evolution of the humanoid bot,
Yes.
Optimus. So we're at a classic Tesla phase, which we've been in multiple times since 2010. We're in a phase between products. The only thing I'll say is this is the most exciting tween products phase I've ever been in with Tesla.
Right.
And I've been in a few.
Right.
We have all these new cars coming, and we should mention the Semi as well, for which they're building a whole factory. We have Optimus coming. We have FSD, version 12 is really, really a step up. I mean, it shows that we're very close. I often talk about these mountains, peaks, and we don't know what mountain peak is beyond the current mountain peak we're trying to reach. This looks real. It looks like we're getting to the top. And so there are all these mountains to climb. I talked about energy. I talked about FSD. I talked about next gen. This is the perfect moment when you get all this negative press, all this publicity, and Elon's not helping the publicity. He's in fact encouraging the negativity. And so what could be a better time? What could be a better opportunity? Now, there are those people who are invested, fully invested, who lose heart, and they see what they think is their net worth drifting down. I have to tell you, folks, the value of the stock is not the amount of money you have. And you opened this conversation with, Jeff Bezos is now the richest man in the world. He's not. What you meant to say is Jeff Bezos's stock shows that it is more valuable at this current moment than the other guys and their stock.
Right.
That's all it means. They're not richer or poorer. They don't have the wealth.
They haven't sold yet, although Jeff has been selling a lot.
So Jeff's sales have turned into cash, and that's the cash he has.
Right.
That's the only, well, let me rephrase that. That is the value that we can state in cash.
Right.
We don't know what he's going to spend it on. I think he's going to buy ULA. Well, once he buys ULA, he's no longer got that cash. And now that ULA stock, the value of it is going to vary from time to time. All I'm trying to say is that if you're an investor, you don't have, quote unquote, have the amount of money that your Robinhood or your Schwab or your Fidelity account reflects at that moment in time. You don't have it. And if you think you have it, you're misleading yourself. The only thing you, quote, have, unquote, is the cash in your bank.
Right. So I just had another epiphany, though, while you were talking, and that is FSD, when it becomes complete, or when there's really, really good evidence that it's complete, that's not just going to create an opportunity to sell more FSD. That's also going to increase car sales. And of course, that was probably part of the thinking on Elon's mind, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, in terms of projections. We might be lucky that we've actually gotten to 50% CAGR, given that FSD has still been a hope, not a reality.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. So I'm one of those guys who don't believe everything Elon says is handed down from on high. So I'm one of those guys who think that Tesla have misplayed the FSD card. I think they've been charging too much too soon for FSD. I think there was a really strong business for FSD in the $3,000 range. Now, the possibility is that the actual dollars that fell onto the bottom line would be about the same as recognizing, 20% of it at $3. But But if they had sold FSD as a partial solution for
Mhm.
a couple of $1,000s, they could have recognized that couple of $1,000s, and with each update, they could have added a few $100s to it. And I think FSD property price today would be about $2,500 to $2,800,
Mhm.
with a real step up to $4,000 or so if version 12 really proves out. Maybe $3,500. That's how I would have priced it. I'm not Elon Musk,
Right.
and he's playing a longer game than I am. And I acknowledge that. So I would have rolled it out that way, and I would have also rolled it out in Europe in a similar fashion. Now, if you actually look at the dollars, the cash that they've actually rolled in,
Mhm.
I don't know, it would have been very different.
Right.
But
Right.
I think the long-term CAGR of the product would be smoother and would be, less volatile. I could be wrong.
But what about my epiphany? Don't you think that if the FSD is demonstrably working, that will cause more people to line up to purchase it at some price, whether it's the 200
Yeah, the price that it's at the moment, I
or
don't think.
could be 200 a month subscription.
Yeah, I don't. I'm negative on the subject, and I'm negative on the subject maybe because he didn't stick to my policy.
I see. Okay. I'm just thinking that the folks out there who we've believed for a very, very long time that FSD is going to be a complete game changer, and that it will also be a game changer, not just for the standpoint of people wanting to use it for their own benefit, but also a big game changer because they'll be able to put their car out to rent. And the fact that it hasn't happened over time, at a certain point, a percentage of the population goes, that's no longer incentivizing me to make this decision. But if it becomes real, now it becomes the incentive goes in play again.
What you're saying, if I understand it correctly, is that if FSD is really working, people who discounted it as part of their reason to buy the stock will now be more excited and will buy the stock.
No, I'm talking about the car. I'm saying there are people.
Oh, will buy the car?
Yeah, there are people today that might
at
have
$10,000, sorry, $6,000 a copy of FSD,
or $200 a month.
Yeah,
I start to play
I
with.
don't know that a lot of people go out to buy Tesla because of FSD. You could be right.
Well, we'll put comments below. Help us out in the comments below. Do you think that if FSD becomes complete, that will generate a new round of interest in Tesla just because of the FSD, whether standalone as a benefit to the driver and or as a benefit in terms of being able to rent their car out when robotaxi becomes the thing?
I think we have to be a little bit cautious about the statement FSD becomes complete. I'm
I've
not
defined it a
sure.
few times.
I'm not sure what constitutes complete. When Tesla takes responsibility for any accident that occurs under FSD, then there will be a sea change.
That's my definition.
Well, that would be an interesting moment, and I think it would change the conversation. My fear is that they're going to put the price up very significantly at that point. And so, I bought FSD 3 times.
Yeah.
My first Model 3, my second Model 3, and my Model X.
Right.
And now I'm getting it as part of my part of my Cybertruck, which I've paid kind of twice or 3 times or 4 times because of the foundation. But my point is, my wife never uses it. Not once. She doesn't mind me using it in the car when I drive. She's experiment. She's allowed me to experiment from the very earliest,
Yep.
heart-wrenching moments to today where it's as smooth as, I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
But she wouldn't use it. Now, I'm interested in buying a new Model 3 for her because it's getting such good write-ups.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm going to go out and try one. Would I buy FSD for it? I don't think so.
Interesting. Okay, so today Jay Leno actually had his Jay Leno's Garage did a 35-minute video on the Model 3. He said it's like a smaller version of his Model S, that it's hardly, you can hardly find significant differences other than the size of the vehicle itself. And I'm sure the sound system may be a little better, but basically he said, the comfort, it's quiet, it's fast, it's quick, handles beautifully. He was very impressed with it.
Yeah, yeah. I love my wife's Model 3. Actually, I bought her the Model X for her. I was driving the Model 3. She said she preferred the Model 3, so we changed. I love the Model X I drive now, but I really love that Model 3. It is like, it's like driving butter. It's like so silky. I love it. So, I'm very interested in the new Model 3. But, I'm of the age, we're of the age that we don't really need 2 cars.
I know. Yeah.
3 cars are a little bit of a stretch.
I think I don't know if I've said on air yet. I actually sold my Volvo. We are down to 1 car. We just don't need any second car anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Sawyer Merritt reports that Tesla insurance ended 2023 with, call it, $500 million in written premiums, a 115% year-over-year increase. So
I know. Look, I know that all you guys are all at Twitter about this. I have to tell you, $500 million in premium in an insurance business.
yeah. Oh,
It's not even cutting the butter.
But that's in, what are they? It's only like in 7 or 8 states. And one of the states it's in is California. And in California, it's still the old system of underwriting.
Yeah.
They're not allowing the safety method. So we don't even have Tesla insurance because our benefit is to stay with our insurance carrier of 25 years because they give us the discount. But if they get the right underwriting in California, we would probably be able to get it in a split second.
Well, so for years I was in the insurance business because we sold to insurance clients. About half our clients were in the insurance industry.
Yeah.
I just know the complexities of insurance, and you really need, our previous CFO, God bless him, was really focused on that insurance. We don't have somebody with that level of focus. It requires that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an exciting business if you're 80 years of age or 90 years of age and you're looking at 50 years of experience. It's really hard to start from scratch.
I'll bet you.
Really, really, really hard. I bet you they're not making money on it yet.
It's possible. I think I saw, I guess it was also Sawyer that said they are making money, but I don't know how he got that information or why he thought that was true.
I'd be interested. I mean, I'm fascinated. I would be fascinated. I'd love to be proven wrong.
And to dig in. Yeah.
But it's a difficult business to be in, and it's more difficult to start than to be in. Once you've actually mastered the cycle, and if you're well managed, you can make money in insurance. But you need a lot of money to make money in insurance.
Okay. We've also got, you had your energy story yesterday, which did very, very well. People were very interested in it. So we've got a couple of hints here. I'm not sure we have anything confirmed yet that the construction on the Shanghai mega factory has started. Production, they've got the what do you call it? The pad down, and that they'll begin building the walls in March. Production expected to begin in the 4th quarter. Did you hear anything more than I did? Is there any more confirmation? Okay. So we have.
No, we do know that China is amazingly productive. I think they've taken their time to plan it. I'd love to see them get it up and running. I don't allocate any revenue to it this year, and I allocate only the amount of revenue that we saw out of Lathrop last year to it for next year. So I think I'm probably very well timed for this. And this is, I did this before I saw the pictures of the new site. The fact that the site has not been built on other than the pads laid out, I think is not a bad thing. And, the same thing happened in Shanghai. We had a muddy field for like 3 months.
Right. And then, boom.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Ford earlier, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about hybrids. I keep on going back and forth on this. So the legacy people, they want hybrids. The press,
Yeah, they love hybrids.
Everybody's
they love hybrids.
Hybrids and hybrids. Everybody wants to talk about hybrids. Nobody wanted to talk about hybrids 5 years ago. But I keep thinking to myself that the infrastructure is in place in the United States. There is not a problem with charging infrastructure. It's there. So the people that are worried about being range bound, they shouldn't be worried about being range bound.
That is not true. If you do not have a Tesla, not have a Tesla, you are range bound.
Okay, I'm saying now with you have to add in, of course, the North American standards now, and people will have the ability.
That's going to take time.
Yeah,
that's going to take time.
Right. So all I'm saying is, I'm not talking about next week. I'm saying to get excited about hybrids over any length of time at all, a couple of years, there's not going to be range issues in a couple of years.
Who do you think is excited about hybrids?
The legacy and the press.
The people who are building hybrids.
So I'm just wondering how in the world they think. Maybe they don't think. Maybe they're they don't care.
Randy, why do you care about it? Because, it's just today's FUD. We've been through so many phases of FUD before. So many phases. I'll take you back to 2017. Once the 200,000 people who want to buy the Model 3 have got their Model 3s, that's the end of Model 3. Model Y, that's the end of Model 3. And once the people who want the Model Ys have got them, that's the end of Model Y. Model Y is too expensive. Listen, every year since I have been following Tesla, there has been a reason why Tesla's going to die. Every year. Right now, it's all about BYD. I was on Yaman's Spaces today. I dropped in. Really interesting conversation. There were people attacking me about BYD this and BYD that and BYD the other. They've just hired 4,000 software engineers to tackle full self-driving. They're gonna solve it. I said, the only thing wrong about hiring 4,000 people is it's 3,750 people too many.
And maybe more than that.
It's like you can't get through to these people. You just cannot. Oh, they spent X tens of billions of dollars on R&D. How can Tesla, who only spends $4 billion on R&D, how can they compete? You can't sit and tackle each little piece of this FUD one at a time. And this whole excitement about, this particular solution or that particular solution that gets away from EVs, it's all just FUD.
By the way, I'm not worried. I hope I didn't mischaracterize my position.
No,
I'm not at all concerned about the hybrids as a competitor. I was thinking more of it in terms of just the overall way that I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago talking about hybrids again. And it was like everybody that's being that's having their industry disrupted tries hybrid solutions, and they never work, and they end up going out of business anyway. If you don't find a way to niche yourself in the new solution, you're not gonna last. So I'm not worried about it from Tesla's standpoint. I'm just always trying to think what what can these people do and why are they doing it and why do they, and I keep thinking, well, maybe hybrids will have a little longer life. Maybe they'll last another 5 or 8 or 10 years. But the reality is at some point, two drivetrains is not going to be as inexpensive as one drivetrain.
But you know, the two drivetrains include a internal combustion engine with all the panoply of problems that attach
Go
to
with
it.
that. Yes.
So, you know, why would you even, and you know, this whole range anxiety thing, which is now suddenly a thing, it's just this week's FUD, or this month's FUD, or this year's FUD. Look, time will solve all of this problem. Whoever puts their money into, you know, these hybrid mongrels today will lose their money. They may make a little bit of revenue in the next year or two. It's possible, but they're going to lose their boots. And you know, that's just the reality of it.
Now, I know, Larry, that you've been preparing something for us on China. You and I spent a tremendous amount of time a few months ago talking about India, China, Japan, South Korea, all that whole group there. And I know you've got another thing working. The CPC starts their big meeting this week.
Yeah.
And they also already came out today and said that their expectation this year is for a 5% GDP increase. That's I think they'll rue the day they made that prediction.
No, they're
no.
projecting it, therefore they will print it.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. I just wonder if you want to give us any teasers on what you're going to be talking about with regard to China, who seems to be in real trouble.
You know, you should think about China as being in the state that the United States was in back in 1929.
Oh, yeah.
Because China is at this nexus of their industrial revolution and the next, where one revolution has to be supplanted by another. So they were in the revolution of the molecules. They were busy building, mining, and manufacturing, and which employed a lot of people because they could. They brought all these people from, you know, from the agricultural areas and put them into industry at very low cost, much as we did in the early part of the century, of the 20th century.
Sure.
And then the world changed.
Yeah.
It changed for us in the 30s. We had this massive displacement of people. You know, what saved us, by the way, was the Second World War.
Sure.
China is in the same boat. China's at a point where the mechanical or the electromechanical revolution has reached its high point. There's a huge change, a sea change in the world's economy.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made life worse for themselves by being very, by using a lot of their power in a very dominant way, which has not inured them to the world.
Right.
And so, and at the same time, they've run out of manpower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is something we didn't do. And we had, you know, we had the value of immigration, even though we tried to tamp it down in the 30s, we had the value of the ongoing immigration. So China's in a huge earthquake where the plates are moving. We don't know where these plates are going to end. I would be, you know, I'm far too modest to try and predict it. Having said that, you know, I opine anyway. So who knows? But one thing's for sure, there's going to be an enormous sociological adjustment. Nobody knows where it's going to end.
Yeah.
Nobody knows whether it's going to be a Hitlerian type of denouement with a Wagnerian, destruction of the world around them, or whether it's going to be more like a transition. And as long as Xi is alive, that transition can't take place.
I see. Yeah.
Question is, what follows Xi and how soon does Xi expire? Is Xi a Stalinist who is going to, take his country into a world of destruction? Or is he, or will he come to an end and will we have a Lincoln-like figure? I don't know what the answer is.
Well, as long as you're thinking about making such projections, Larry,
yeah,
I'm now seeing a bunch of headlines. I'm seeing a bunch of pundits that are all saying that they think the Fed has not just moved the goalpost, that they've completely changed their way of thinking. They don't care anymore about whether it's 7 months or 10 months or 12 months of interest, of inflation at 2.5%, 3%. What they really want to do, what they really want to see, they really want the economy to break. They want something somewhere to break so that they have maybe cover for lowering interest rates, or where they feel like that will finally make the inflation thing done for good, that it won't be bounce back.
Yeah.
I've
seen this thesis about the break. Something's got to break before you have a recession. Well, if something breaks, it's too late.
Yeah.
There's no getting back from it. If something breaks, you are going to have a recession, and it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to lift yourself out of it. Most recessions are very short.
Right.
But some recessions, I remember the 70s, it looked like we would never get out of that recession, and it just kept coming back.
Yeah.
The end of the 70s was, I think, my worst experience in my lifetime. I didn't live through the 30s. My father did, and gave me very graphic descriptions of it. I did not live through that, but I lived through the 70s. And I remember terrible moments in the 70s. I remember sitting around a board table in Geneva, Switzerland, with one of the biggest bankers in Europe. And he was sitting at the head of the table, and there were all of us around there, very respectful of this great gentleman. And he said, "America is finished. We no longer consider America as important." This was in the Jimmy Carter years. This was at the height of the, Federal Reserve gone mad. And it took a Ronald Reagan to lift us out of that miasma.
Yeah. Yeah. It was something. I think, Larry, I may have said this to you before, or maybe I've said it on the station, on this channel. I'm not sure. I had a wholesale distributorship at that time, a small business, like $1 million in sales. And we were going out. We sold mostly to bike shops that owed us money. There was no cash in the system, so there was no consumers walking into retail. So retailers had no money. The wholesalers had no money. Nobody had any money. Right. We were literally going to those retailers and picking up not our inventory, not the stuff we'd sold them. We say, just give us any inventory. Sell us, give us inventory instead of cash. It was like the 20s where people were, getting a chicken or a duck, instead of picking up cash. I mean, it was crazy.
I remember those days vividly.
It was a wild.
Yeah, I saw that kind of event again and again, globally. I mean, I'm not just talking about the United States. Right. I'm talking about Europe, and I'm talking about, where I lived in South Africa at the time. It was a global phenomenon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
you can hope that they won't wait till it breaks, Larry. That doesn't seem like a
well. China has broken before. China has broken before.
Yep.
And China can break again. I think a lot turns on who's the next president, and I quail to think that it's either of the two front runners right now, because for me, they represent the opposite ends of bad. I think, Trump, I actually agree with some of his policies, but I don't agree with the man. Biden, there is no man. So, both parties are running helter-skelter towards some form of an election, and it's just bad for the country. We need a new generation. We don't need 70, 80, 90-year-old presidents. I'm 77, soon to be 78. I could no longer run, a company of a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand people, never mind run a country at my age. Why do these guys not have why don't they just have the simple realization of fact, that just, I don't know, it's
Yes,
bad.
well, yeah, I don't know, Larry, I'm going to make a recommendation for people of our generation, which mostly listen to this program. There's a book called Generations. I assume it's still out there. I think you can
Yep.
get it. And this book had this idea that generations have personalities.
Yeah.
And he literally said in this book that was written 30 years ago, my mom was the one that recommended it to me. He said 30 years ago, the baby boom generation will not give up power until there's somebody 2 generations or 3 generations down that's ready to take over power, because it won't be the what with the ones after the baby boomers, the X gen. Yeah, it won't be from the X generation. So interesting that we're living out what he projected all those years ago.
Just the vanity of these people who, are way past, their sell-by date. Vanity that they believe that they're the next coming. And look, I'm sorry if you're a Trump supporter. I'm sorry if you're a Biden supporter. I'm sorry to say this to you, but these guys are far, far, far past their prime. I mean, not just a little bit, far past it.
So Larry,
so am I.
I want to let you know that since you're doing this projecting, you earlier projected that Tesla could go down some more. And so in the after hours, yeah, it's down more. It's down another $2.46. So for the day, that would give us 17 down for the day, which is almost 10% for the day, 9 and some change. So who knows what the morning will bring.
Randy, you and I have been doing this for a little while now.
A little while, yeah.
And I can't recall how many times it's been down double digits.
Yes.
Only to go up by that many digits again. Look, we're between these waves. This is the way it's going to be. Yep,
it's true. Well, Larry, we got the 10-year is still under my 4.25. Thank goodness. It's down 0.2%. All the long-termers are in that range, so about that same range. The short-termers are actually up in yield. So
that's not good.
Spreading the inversion again. We've got oil. Let's take a look at oil. China says that military spending growth in 2024 stayed the same as last year at 7.2% of their economy.
If you believe any number they ever released, last year's or this year's,
The oil patch, we've got it back down again. It had crossed 80 and looked like it was going to stay there. And
just when you quote an oil price, just tell us which oil price.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Texas Intermediate.
Okay.
Had bounced over 80. It is now back down to 78.57. And that is in spite of the fact that the Saudis and the Russians and a couple of the others that joined with them said they were going to continue to keep the oil supply low. So apparently that went over like a lead balloon, and now we're back down to the 78 where it's kind of been for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Brent, actually, since you bring it up, Brent is now $4 higher, which it had been $6, and it's come back down recently. Sometimes it's even been under $4 difference.
Yeah.
So the Red Sea doesn't seem to be having the impact it was. Natural gas hardly changed here. The dollar easing, it says. Gold and Bitcoin are the big winners of the day.
Yeah.
Gold is off a little bit, but it was at it's 21.25 before after the pre-market. Now it's at 21.21. That's an all-time high. That's a record.
Yeah, it was a good bet, back in November, December, when, I kind of called it. I mean, when I say a good bet, it's a slow and steady wins the race with gold. I mean, and the same with Bitcoin, Kathy Wood called it.
She should be doing very well right now. It's up 9% today. 9%, 5,714 in one day.
It seems like it's topping. When it starts increasing at that rate, it feels like it's topping, right?
Yeah, it is very close to its all-time high, although somebody pointed out today that with Bitcoin, you do have to take into consideration inflation because it's the buying power that counts. So I guess it needs to get to 76 or something to be at its actual.
Well, that's crazy because, we haven't looked at buying power on commodities for like forever. We don't look at buying power in the US dollar.
Right.
It's
For
kind of
sure.
crazy. An absolute number is an absolute number. We don't look at it when we look at gold. We don't look at it any other commodity. A number is a number. Right. Now, it may cause some degree of inflation, but anyway.
Okay. All right. We got the equities. Dow is up. I'm sorry. Start over. The Dow is down 49.
Yeah.
The S&P is down 8. NASDAQ future down almost 50. That would be Dow futures 0.13 down. S&P future down 0.16. The NASDAQ down double at down 0.27, almost 0.25% in the pre-market. So that would give you some reason, if you need a reason, of why Tesla continued down in the after hours. But
yeah, but Tesla's far out of its normal range in terms of its relationship to the Dow, to NASDAQ.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things. We don't have time to go into those. We've done those. In fact, let me just say right now, I will put cards up for both my morning show this morning, where I talked about the 7 different reasons, and also the show I did with Brian White, where he talked about a bunch more. So if you want to see those, the cards will be right there.
My sense today was that it was all about the China numbers, which are misinterpreted, but we'll see. I think we're going to get monthly figures very shortly, right? Tonight or tomorrow.
We got the monthly, the wholesale figures.
Yeah, wholesale.
Got those. I thought we got those. I thought that was the reason, was the wholesale figures this morning. Only at 60,700 or something, 60. It was a low number. Yeah. I think that's the reason that the China numbers that you're talking about were those numbers. So we will get the
China market, but that doesn't include exports, does it?
Yeah, yeah, that includes everything. Yeah. So and
I should do a better prep.
What we're going to get tonight or tomorrow is we'll get the next week. And I did see a few people on X saying that they are projecting that might be as high as 20,000 for the week. Well, because of all of the effort going into the local market after the Chinese New Year. So don't know if I have no idea.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah, okay.
That's a big number.
Me too. All right, Larry, as always, did we have any good news? There must have been some good news in there someplace. Buy. It's a buying opportunity. There's your good news.
It's great. It's a great buying opportunity. And, I posted all about and we had a conversation about the energy business.
Yeah.
It's really very strong right now. And time will tell. Time will tell. I think we're really setting up for a great 2025, 2026.
Yep.
More 2026 than 2025, but there you go.
Yep. Okay, Larry. Hey, as always, glad to have you co-hosting on Monday nights and on Friday nights. Although this Friday is Kathy Wood day, and so we'll have to talk about whether you want to be on Friday and Saturday. Are you going to be able to join us Saturday morning? I know that's a big day for you.
Yeah, as long as it's relatively early in my time. I've got 20 odd people or the whole family coming in because
you're going to be a year older. A week before I turn a year older.
You don't want to be a year old at my age. At
It's
your age,
consider-
either.
Considering the alternative, Larry, it's always better to be a year older.
I guess.
All
So
right.
the alternative would be more peaceful.
That's well, there is that.
Take care, Randy.
Thank you, Larry, and to all of you out there. It's been great talking to you.